I'm Brittany Rizzo, and welcome to My Only Friends. Today you will hear my conversation with Romel De Silva. Romel De Silva is a Filipino American actor, writer, and comedian. Recent notable credits include a recurring role as Kyle in Heathers, Sebastian Woo in He's All That, and recurring as Greg in American Auto. Romel and I talk about the importance of support, balance, and our endless love for Hilary Duff. This episode reminds me of the Friends episode, the one with Joey's new brain. Joey got to work with and then replace one of his favorite actors, Jessica Lockhart, on Days of Our Lives. And Romel tells me the story of how he got to work with Kobe Smulders, but also fanboyed out because How I Met Your Mother is his go-to show. Please enjoy Romel De Silva.
How are you?
I'm so good.
To hear your voice.
I know. How are you?
Fantastic.
We've kept in touch a lot through text, but we haven't actually physically seen each other or spoken to each other in such a long time.
This is true. I think so as well. Yeah, we've known each other for what? Like 10 years or something? Ridiculous. Yeah. This is nuts.
Nutty. It's so funny because I feel like in LA, that's how a lot of friendships are. It's like we live close to each other and we still keep in touch, but nobody ever actually sees each other, which is so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. It's like, I mean, with the whole social media of it, like I have friends that I like, oh yeah, that's my friend. But I was like, I haven't seen that friend in like 10 years. But like, also like, you know, if they ever needed anything, I'd still be there for them. You know what I mean? Like if you ever needed to move a couch, you could always call me up, you know?
Absolutely. And that's how you've actually been in like my life. And I was thinking about it. Like, I was like, I reach out to you and you have been such a guiding light in LA for me, because I reach out to you every time something happens in my career, or every time I need to, like, I remember I was freaking out about getting a new agent manager and you would like read my submissions for me and give me feedback. And like, I remember, so we met on Camp Fred.
Stop. Even just talking about it is just cringy, but I love it. I love it.
Well, we essentially got to go to summer camp every day. That was one of the funnest times. Like working background when you first moved to LA, it's not fun sometimes. Like you're like waking up to get there at 6 o'clock in the morning to sit around for like 5 hours and then they need you for another 3. And then you're like, can we go yet? Like, what are we doing here? But with Camp Fred, I became friends with everybody we were on set with, because we were with each other every single day, and we just were up in was it Griffith Park?
It was Griffith Park.
Yeah. And just,
and it was crazy because, I think it was also crazy just because like, I think everyone was just close on that set because like even the leads were very close on that set with us. I think it was just kind of an environment for fun. Like it was camp and it was fun. And what's crazy is that I still run into a lot of the same people from that camp. I call it camp. I was like, oh yeah, we met back in camp. You know, I don't even think of it as like a small project we did like early in our careers. It was like Kenton and Leah Lewis, who's like literally everywhere and booking series regulars all over the place. And it was such a fun experience. And I think actually that was my last background gig.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Yeah, I was called like Camp I Want a PP.
Yeah, Camp. So ridiculous. So ridiculous.
I just remember.
I love that.
But I remember being on set with you, and even then you were just like this big well of knowledge and kindness about everything. Like people would have so many questions about their vouchers or this and that, and you were like, oh, this is what you do. Like you seemingly have always known your way around this industry. How do you think that started?
Well, I think, so like my mom wanted me to be a doctor. So naturally I became an actor. Right. And I have like this attention to detail. Like I'm a good student. I really kind of study my craft. And this is something that I've always been so passionate about. So every single thing about the industry, I like to go ahead with it. I kind of consider myself like the difference between me and, you know, certain actors is that I really pay attention to the details and really kind of pay attention to the business of it, because as much as we're all storytellers, and as much as we love to practice our art and our craft, but there's a whole kind of business behind it that I don't think that people really kind of pay attention to. And I think that's kind of the difference between the people who are constantly booking and working against the people who are just talented, but really have nowhere to put it, you know, because this whole town is lousy with talent, and it's, you know, like everyone's talented. Everyone just has to find their place. But I think that the business side of it, you have to really consider to really kind of be successful, you know?
Right. So what would you say is people's biggest mistake when it comes to the business side of it that you have seen that has helped you? As
far as like the business side of it is just kind of knowing your stuff, getting your materials correct, and also knowing as much about the industry as possible. You don't want to show up on set and, you know, be like, hi, I'm Romel, who are you? And they're like, I'm Sam Jackson. And you're like, okay, well, I totally misread that one. You know what I mean? Right. You want to know the big players in the game. You want to know the big casting directors. You want to know the big directors. You want to keep your relationships with them, because you have to live and breathe this business if you want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? And also find that work balance, you know what I mean? As we're talking on a, like, you know, mental health podcast of sorts, you also have to find that balance in that support system. So that's also important as well as living and breathing the business, you know?
And you are very good at that too, as well. Like I was looking at your Instagram before we were on here, and you are literally always going out and also appreciating art. As much as you're putting art out into the world, you're also going and appreciating art and, you know, going to shows and plays, and you love Disneyland, which I love.
I love it.
Like you're always out and about, or at like fun get-togethers with your friends. So you definitely have mastered, it seems, the balance of, you know, enjoying your life while pursuing and being in your career.
I wouldn't exactly say that I've mastered it. I think that I've found a way to, this is my business, right? And I'm very, very passionate about it. I'm sometimes obsessive about it, but I have been working on, you know, through therapy and through my support system, that this business is not my identity. It's my business. You know what I mean? And I love being an actor, and I love that it's part of my identity, but that's the biggest struggle. And I still work on it to this day, is that I can't make my identity strictly about my business, because without my business, you know, who am I? What am I? Am I a good husband? Am I a good friend? Like, am I a good son? I have to really kind of focus on whether or not I'm doing those things for myself.
Yes.
You know,
preach it.
Snaps all around.
Snaps all around. I talk the same way with my therapist, because I'm always like, I just get this entirely different feeling about my whole life when I'm working on an audition or doing a scene with somebody. Like, I am the most present I've ever been. I feel my soul light up. I feel like, like this huge, just like weight lifted off, and just like this calmness. And it's been this whole, you know, lesson with my therapist of how do I bring that into my everyday life? Like, I can't just feel that way when I'm acting. And like, while it's a beautiful thing, that's what acting does for so many of us. But it's one of those things like, how do I just bring that comfort and, you know, present moment into my everyday life, which is definitely hard.
Okay, before we get to that, can I ask you, do you feel that way during in-person auditions versus self-tape? Because that's kind of one of those things that we kind of have to talk about as far as our industry shift lately, is that now it's all self-tapes and we're kind of self-producing it. So, I mean, I feel the same way myself when I'm creating my self-tapes with my wife and just kind of allowing myself to play and being fun and all that stuff. But in person, I feel like there's that added pressure that kind of brings more anxiety to it.
That's a really good question, because I definitely could see how I would have to bring what I'm doing in my self tapes it would be a lesson to try to bring that into the room, because I am that person where before my audition, I'm like, I have to pee again. I have to pee again. Oh my God, I'm nervous. Like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like I get,
I feel you.
When I would do auditions for like singing in person, no problem. Acting, I do love, I think I pride myself too, and like not to be like conceited, but in redirects, like I love when I'm in the room and they give you a redirect and you nail it. Like that is a great feeling. So I do miss that. Like I had a Zoom callback, which was my first Zoom callback, and it was so fun. They were like, okay, Brittany, do it this way. And I'm like, just in my apartment alone, like in my,
and just grooving,
and you're just having so much fun. And I think it will be a lesson to be able to bring that to the room. But I think in the room, I'm a little bit more vulnerable, because you're already in a vulnerable place of being kind of scared and anxious and nervous. So I think when the role calls for that, it does a service for me in a way. But I had, not to make this the longest answer ever, but
no. I'd love to hear it.
My very first audition in LA, remember I was so nervous, and the director looked at me and was like, how long did it take you to get here? And I said, 30 minutes. He said, how long is it going to take you to get home? I said, 30 minutes. He goes, so why are you rushing? He was like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I was so nervous, I just wanted to get it over with. And he was like, you're here. Take a breath. You're here. Take your time. And I was like, okay. And that was kind of like the first, and it was the weirdest thing, because he also had me fill out a paper afterwards. Like, why do you want to be in this? And mine was like, I chose the most logical answer. And it was like A, B, C, D, and D was to have fun. And he was like, the answer is to have fun. And I didn't choose to have fun.
The answer is to have, I love that. It's like casting therapy. That's wonderful. I actually had a similar like story to that. I went to an audition for a movie. It was a huge movie. I don't even know if it's come out yet, but the casting director, I was going through the lines and I was like, I was rushing because I was nervous, and I finished. And then she was like, hey, how long do you think this movie is? And I said, I don't know, maybe like 90 minutes, 2 hours. And she goes, yeah, this is not TV. Slow it down. You have all the time in the world. And I went, like my mind blew, just because like thinking about that, I was just like, oh, that's a interesting thing. Cause we as actors kind of study these types, like what is a multicam audition versus what's going to be shown on SVU, like how to do a single cam audition. So, there are those things. And, to touch back on what you said about confidence, I think it's just important for actors to realize that the audition is something that you get to have a moment to act, because most of the time we're not acting. Like as an actor, like I think that is the one thing that we do the least amount is act, right? So going to these auditions, you're like, oh man, I get to act today. It kind of brings life to you, brings light to you. And I think that's a good mindset to go into it, is that, oh, hey, I get to act for these, 30 seconds, a minute, when I haven't acted all day, unless you're in a class or, doing those things like you should be, like I should be. But yeah, getting to act is something that is rare. So I kind of love going into the audition room sometimes. I say that now because I'm not filled with anxiety, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That leads me to a question now, to getting on set, the anxiety that you may get on set. Now, I was watching your reel of all the amazing things that you've done in the past 10 years.
Oh, thank you.
And you're welcome. And you have worked with people that you're all fans of, that I know you're fans of. So it's like,
oh yeah,
what is that? I mean, Jason Bateman and Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. And then I don't want to say her. Is it Colby Smulders?
It's Colby Smulders. Yeah.
Colby Smulders.
It's without the else. It's Colby Smulders. Yeah.
Yeah. I always
like, almost like Kobe, almost like whoosh, Kobe, but not. Yeah.
Yeah. So Colby Smulders. What is it like? Because I would imagine if I, when I book a job and work with Jennifer Aniston one day, there's going to have to be a whole side of me that I have to shut down.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, you will work with Jennifer Aniston one day, and I'm putting that out into the universe. But the whole thing was silly because I worked 3 days on the set of Stumptown, which is Colby Smulders' new show, which got canceled, sadly.
So sad because, side note, I loved that show. With Nick Miller.
It was good.
It was good. It was entertaining. Yeah. Hot. Michael Ealy was on it. I loved it. I was so sad it got canceled.
And the experience meeting her was beyond anything because I met her and literally how they say that this person's the funniest person in the room. She actually was the funniest person in the room. She came in, she was a ball of light. She was so funny and she would pitch bits, even though we're doing this crime drama, she would pitch bits that were just so funny. And she just has a good head on her shoulders. And, the first time I met her, I just said, hello, nice to meet you. And I was keeping my cool. Day one, fantastic, right? Day two, still professional, still cool, fun. And then day three, I was like, this is my only chance. So I say, Colby, I have to tell you that I am a huge fan of How I Met Your Mother. It is my friends, if that makes any sense. And then she was just like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Everyone has their friends, which is your podcast. Yeah. And then I proceeded to kind of I was just keep it in, Romel, don't go crazy. I went crazy. So I was like, I actually threw a finale for the show. I threw a finale party for the show, and she was like, "No way!" And I was like, "It was themed. We had themed foods. We decorated the place like McLaren's. I was going nuts with it." And she was just like, "I have to see it." And I go, "Yes."
Literally,
and so,
say no more.
I pull out my phone. Yeah, I was like, "Say no more." I pull out my phone. I show her all the pictures, and she goes, "You guys went so hard on this." And I went, yes, we did, because we love the show. She goes, I've never seen the show after its first airing, so I kind of want to rewatch it. And I go, yeah, absolutely. It's a good one. And then I embarrassed myself even further. My wife and I watch it every night before we go to bed. And so I was just like, okay, now the embarrassment has flushed over me.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did it on the last day, because after that, she kind of gave me a knowing look every single time she saw me. But she was absolutely amazing. She took a picture with me, and she's just she told me your How I Met Your Mother friend fans are gonna freak out over this. And I go, absolutely. So she was just sweet. She was very sweet, and she was very sweet to a crazy fanboy. So
but
it totally worked out.
How beautiful is that though? And what an amazing experience for you to have, because it's literally you're not just meeting somebody that you love and admire, you're working with them, and that's how you met them. And that's the dream for all of us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, it's not just running them onto the street and being like, hey, I'm a fan, it's kind of like, hey, I'm here on set. We're working together. This is cool. It's kind of almost like a bigger connection, which, we're all trying to connect with our favorite stars that we grew up with.
I mean, that's from How I Met Your Mother. And then I met Hillary from How I Met Your Father. And I had the craziest. Well, I had asked her a question on TRL in 2005, which is pretty iconic. I know the word iconic gets thrown around a lot, but asking a question on TRL, that's pretty amazing. But
I mean, for anybody who's Gen Z and is listening to this podcast, the idea of doing anything on TRL is literally it was like a Kim Kardashian post. That's how cool it was. You know what I mean? It was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I've seen that clip. It's fantastic. And your hairstyle, the bangs, you were such a scene girl. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
And what's great. So funny is my friend and I, we were watching Watch What Happens Live with Hilary Duff on it last night. And they were like, you could never meet her. Because I was telling them all the psycho things I did because I was obsessed with her. Like I really wanted to be her, to the point where like girls in high school or like middle school, if they wanted to bully me, they knew they couldn't get to me. So then they would make fun of Hilary Duff and they knew that is what would hurt me. And so it was like,
no, don't. Yeah.
But when I met her, I was at an album listening party and she came walking in to the like recording studio on the very last song. And there was like 25 of us in there. And I just stood up like out of tension. I didn't know what to do with myself. And I was like, oh my God. And then it was funny because one of my really close friends used to work with Hilary's dentist and would relay messages between me and Hilary Duff all the time. And so when it came around to be my turn to ask for a picture, like she was taking photos with everybody, she's like, wait, I know you. And I was like, I cannot believe this is happening to me right now. Like,
please tell me you told her the story of the TRL.
Oh, yes. But I was like, TRL. Oh, and I was like, oh, well, my friend Kristen, she was like, oh, you're Brittany. And like, it was just like the best experience ever. And
oh my God.
It kind of made my obsession even worse. Like, I just think she's the one. I mean, it's like Jennifer Aniston, Hilary Duff.
Yeah. Yeah. She's iconic. And she's the reason that show is as great as it is.
Are you watching How I Met Your Father? As a How I Met Your Mother fan?
I am.
Like it.
It's hard to catch lightning in a bottle twice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not that I don't love How I Met Your Father. I think it still has a little bit of ways to go, but How I Met Your Mother is so iconic, and I really love that they're bringing elements of the original into it. But I like how it's kind of its own thing. I like how it's its own kind of original thing with a little bit of themes from the original How I Met Your Mother, Right.
I think I'm like, well, I talk about it on here a lot. Hilary Duff, Kim Cattrall, like two icons for me. So that's like sold. And I never really watched How I Met Your Mother until yesterday was my first episode, and I watched Slap Bet. And that episode was really, I laughed out loud a lot because they mastered the element of surprise. Just like the Robin having a secret, and then the actual slap bet and never knowing when somebody's going to get slapped across the face. And sorry, when somebody gets slapped across the face out of nowhere, it's always funny. It's always funny. And I was thinking about it, like, not to give the episode away if people haven't seen it, but she ends up, Robin, her secret is that she's a Canadian pop star. And the whole time I was like, I wish, like, I hope to God Hilary does something like this to like pay tribute to her pop career. I would die.
You should pitch that. Let's call Hulu over and let's bring them over and let them know. I would. Oh my gosh.
Wouldn't that be so fantastic. Good?
Yeah. You just lit up fireworks in my brain and thinking that, okay, you know what? The show is probably going to be incredible because of that idea. Yeah. It'll happen. Let's put it out in the universe as well.
Let's say it. And you heard it here first. It was my idea.
Yeah. My Only Friends podcast guys came up with that idea. Thank you.
So what would you say it was that draws you to How I Met Your Mother the most, like as your comfort show or just favorite show in general?
I mean, it's my comfort show and it's my favorite show. And I discovered it at a pivotal moment in my life when I was in high school. I think it was like junior, senior year. And it's like, what was that quote from The Office that like, I wish that we knew that we were living in the best times. I'm going to totally scrub the quote and people are going to write in, but like, I wish we knew we were living the best times of our lives, kind of almost in the moment. Around that kind of feel in the moment. Yeah. And that's how I feel about How I Met Your Mother, is that since it's told in a series of flashbacks, it's like, appreciate the moments that you have now because you'll be looking back on them with such, adoration. And I think it gives that kind of feel of like being in the present and knowing that things will be okay, I guess, you know, and also the fact that I think so. I will have to tell you, as you have never seen an episode of my show, I've only seen like 3 episodes of Friends, like ever. And I know that's like shocking to most. Yeah, that's shocking to most millennials.
Well, I just think knowing you that's shocking. Like, I feel like that's definitely a show that you would watch and know a lot of.
Yeah, I would think so too. I think it didn't catch me at the right time because I think it was Boy Meets World was my whole world in life. And then after Boy Meets World, I kind of went over to How I Met Your Mother. And I think that in the middle there was Scrubs or something, because I'm a huge TV fan as well. But yeah, I think it was Boy Meets World that kind of was my adolescence. And then How I Met Your Mother was kind of my adulthood. And that's kind of how a lot of the like life lessons and weird things that happen in that kind of really bring it home for me, you know?
Yeah. And I get that because Boy Meets World was my adolescence. And then in my, you know, as I got more into my 20s, it was Friends. But I think Boy Meets World is like so pivotal for a lot of us.
Oh, yeah.
Insane. And also Mark Blutman, who was executive and writer on Boy Meets World, is a writer on your show, Ghostwriter.
I did not know. I have to. Yeah. I that's awesome. Yeah. That's cool. I need to talk to Mark. Okay. Yeah. Great. Fantastic.
That's so funny.
Cool.
Yeah. And with, you know, when I was watching, you know, it's interesting because let's keep in mind, neither one of us are bashing each other's shows. We're just saying we have the same experience and how you felt like you couldn't connect, like it didn't grab your heart like Friends. Like, I think that is what happened with How I Met Your Mother. It just kind of missed my radar somehow. Yeah. And I could tell sometimes when I know a show is going to really take over my life, I won't go watch it. And I had that feeling with How I Met Your Mother when I was watching it yesterday. I'm like, I could see myself getting so into this that like it would make me not do things I had to do throughout the day. Like I would just be like, because during COVID, that getting back into the gist of things was so hard for me because I remember I watched Modern Family for the first time, like during the pandemic. I was late to the game, but I had this routine of like,
that show is a powerhouse.
Oh, it's incredible. But I would wake up, I would do my Peloton, then I'd make my sandwich and I'd sit down and I'd watch like 3 hours of Modern Family. And that was my life every day until I went to work in the evening. And I'm like I don't have time to do that with another show right now. And I could tell How I Met Your Mother would definitely pull me into that.
Although I would argue with you that schedule is actually more productive than a lot of my days. So kudos to you for
that's true.
The Peloton to breakfast. Because usually it's kind of like, I'm going to wake up and watch this show until I die.
Yeah. And what's so funny is that, well, one, their MySpace reference. I'm like, when did this show come out? Like, I don't know why I thought it was way more current than it actually is. I think because How I Met Your Father is so new. But I'm like, wait, they're talking about MySpace. Like, what year is this? And then I just felt so old. And then I know. What was your MySpace song? Do you remember?
My MySpace song was, I got your picture. I'm coming with you, dear Maria. Come in.
Oh my God.
Yes, exactly. And then, so basically like my MySpace, this is going to completely like be so dorky, but my MySpace page would start like, you know how you had those intros to your MySpace page? So it would kind of start and then go into my top 8. Oh, it was fantastic. It was fantastic.
We were like coding websites when we were, 13, 14 years old and didn't know it.
100%. 100%. And like, it was so toxic that we were like displaying our top 8 friends on our page. Like, these are the people that I like. Y'all are just peasants.
Look, honestly, sometimes I wish I could display a top 8 because sometimes people got to know that they're not acting right. You're falling down a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. We need another social media to actually rank our friends publicly.
Mine was, this is the story of a girl. And
I love it.
That song came on like Sirius XM the other day and I was like, oh my God, it makes me so happy. And again, it goes back to Hilary Duff because that song played on, I think the very first episode of Lizzie McGuire, like Picture Day, School Picture Day. And she's like getting on the bus and that song starts playing.
Oh yeah.
And then I was obsessed from then on.
Hilary Duff was I was like sick with love. She was my first crush. And I feel like I was so lovesick, like it hurt. You know what I mean? Kind of like it was like,
is it weird if
the
I
Lizzie
say
McGuire
same?
of it all? Like, yeah, right. I mean, it's like, she was just like, you know, she was so enigmatic on screen, and like, particularly Lizzie, like I was just in love with her, and I was just like, that's going to be my wife. She was fantastic. And that like the new show is making us love her all over again. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And there was one last that I had while I was watching the Slap Bet episode of How I Met Your Mother last night. It reminded me of, have you seen when Joey does a lipstick commercial on Friends? You have to watch that episode because he knows, like, Joey wants Chandler to give somebody his tape so that he can get this part. And Chandler lies and says, yeah, he watched it. You weren't what they were looking for. And he was like, I know you're lying, because if you watched it, you would know so-and-so. And he was like, no, I watched it. And then he puts in the tape and it's Joey doing a lipstick commercial. And it is so funny. And that's what this episode reminded me of, because she was like, you know, they all think that Robin's in a porn. She's like,
she's doing porn. Yeah.
No, I was a Canadian pop star. And I just loved and what I loved about it too, is they didn't just show a little clip of the music video. They showed the full music video.
The full thing. And honestly, it's one of the music videos that I like will go back to every now and then just to watch, because there's a full version on YouTube that's just fantastic. And yes, I mean, it's phenomenal. That the reason why I chose that episode to tell you about was because it's a pivotal, like, even though it doesn't seem like an important like episode, it actually is like one of the most important episodes, because not only does the slap bet survive for the rest of the series, because the slap bet commissioner and the slap bet rules change as it goes on, but also it's a huge moment in Kobe Smolder's character as Robin, and that also comes back every now and then. So we get a new music video like every like year or 2 years after that. You know what I mean? Really? So we get like, yes, it's fantastic. And we get a behind the music kind of thing of like her downfall. It's,
oh my God,
it's funny.
I want a whole show on that. Like just that alone.
Yeah.
That is
just
funny.
a Robin Sparkles
behind the music. That would be amazing.
It's phenomenal.
I love
it's that. Phenomenal.
Now, is there a certain character, whether it be from How I Met Your Mother or in general, where you really see yourself in them?
See, with that show, I think it changed as I grew up, right? So like when I caught it in my younger years in high school, I think I related a lot to Ted, because I was this kind of like hopeless romantic and kind of quixotic a little bit, you know, just very, very just into the romance kind of idealistic kind of life. And then I grew up into college, and then I kind of related to Barney. And then now I'm more so Marshall and a little bit of Robin, but I'm more so Marshall because like I'm married, I'm goofy, I sing everything that I'm doing. There's an episode called Spoiler Alert where literally they all point out each other's flaws, and it kind of breaks the glass, breaks their light bulb on top of their head. And they all kind of notice each other's flaws, and it's fantastic. But I do sing about everything that I do now. Like, even if I'm just like, I'm taking out the garbage. Yeah. It's really dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, weird chime. Anyways,
they were chiming in with you. They were like, oh, he's singing. We need a background check.
Yeah, exactly.
So were you a New Girl fan? Because I feel like New Girl is very much. Yeah, I could see that. Because she sings about everything. And there's literally an episode called The Pogo where they each find each other's pogo. Like, what is the one thing that's wrong? And it just like breaks down their ecosystem in their apartment.
I really loved. So with New Girl, I kind of loved when they kind of, not to take away anything from Zoe Deschanel, but like I loved when they became more of an ensemble cast and it kind of really became, you know, like an everybody show. And I think that's kind of, it hit its rhythm.
Yes, exactly. It was never just anybody's show. It was everyone's show. I totally get it. Is there a show like, obviously How I Met Your Mother or How I Met Your Father would be an incredible get to you, but I'm like, was there a show past or present that you were like, oh, I just need to get on this show? Like, this is the show I want to get on so bad.
Let me think. I think that, I mean, for a while, I've always wanted to be on Black Mirror, just because like I thought they were doing something that's so innovative and new.
Well, we're living in a Black Mirror episode, so.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly why.
Exactly.
I mean, right now, let's say the flavor right now, like I would love to be on anything in the White Lotus because it's just so good. And what's great is that there are more shows that are coming out that actually have that representation. You know what I mean? So it's interesting, not to like completely shift the topic, but I used to watch these shows like Friends and How I Met Your Mother and, you know, Boy Meets World, and they were predominantly, you know, white. And it was great for me to connect, but also like incredibly hard for me to connect because I didn't see myself on screen. And I feel like now the tides are turning and we're starting to see a lot of great diversity on screen with things like Euphoria and even White Lotus, who brings in a lot of diversity, even though it's White Lotus itself. And, you know, and Severance, and there's just a lot more diversity on screen, which is really great for people to see. I'm a storyteller and I've always wanted to tell these stories. And I feel like there are so many more stories that we all should be able to see, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different perspectives from, you know, people of different culture and different ethnicity and different race. Like everyone has such a complete different experience in this world. And to see it through the guise of one race, one culture, one gender, that's not real life. And that one, it's not fair and it's not interesting either. Like, it's like, okay, we get it. And I mean, my friends group does look that diverse. You know what I mean? Like my actual friend group does look that diverse. So it's not like tokenism or any kind of like, this is on purpose, but like my friend group is that varied. And I hope that, you know, that is something that is shown more. Absolutely. Same. And, you know, I was talking with my last guest and my current roommate, Jake, about how I'm so happy that I have such a diverse group of friends, because it's also made me a better person of like, you know, being more empathic and being more knowledgeable of certain things. My question is too, like, when was the first time you saw yourself represented on screen? Do you remember that moment? Like,
yes,
finally.
It was Rufio on Hook. And once I saw that Filipino boy kind of skate out and everyone was chanting his name, like chanting this Filipino dude's name, like we were always in the background of everything. And this kid just comes out and he's the baddest mofo out there. And people are screaming, Rufio. I mean, that was pivotal to me. Yeah, it was that one feeling. I mean, and also in the weird way, Mulan, you know, like I love that cartoon because I was just like, wait a minute, hold on. Asian people in a cartoon? Fantastic. Yeah.
I was obsessed with Mulan. Growing up. The soundtrack I was obsessed with. It was like when I first
It's fire.
Yeah.
If you don't routinely work out to I'll make a man out of you, I think you're doing it wrong. Right?
It's
like you gotta get fit to defeat the Huns. Let's go. Right?
There's something about that song. You're like, that goes hard. That's like shit. I can take on the whole world. Speaking of, is there a certain character you channel in your hard times? Or like an alter ego you tap into?
I mean, as far as the show that we're kind of discussing, I mean, I would say Barney, because he's just so awesome. There's one quote that he says within it that I kind of do, I kind of say to myself all the time. And he says something along the lines of like, oh, I'm never sad. Whenever I'm sad, I just stop being sad and start being awesome. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'm sad. You know what? I'm going to stop being sad. I'm going to start being awesome. So that's kind of,
I love that.
Exactly.
That's so, I really like that a lot, because I think sometimes too, we don't realize how simply we can change our mood with a thought. And saying that out loud and having that be your deciding factor, it's like, you know, sometimes you have to feel your feelings. You have to let it all out. But I've started doing something similar where if I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm having like ruminating thoughts and I'm like thinking of all the things that I don't have, or this, or, oh my God, I have to do this. Because when I wake up in the middle of the night and it's instant, like those thoughts are instant. And I've gotten to the habit of saying, the second like I feel those thoughts coming and I'm like getting more and more alert, I go, my name is Brittany Rizzo and nothing but good things happen to me.
Ooh, I love that.
And then I just go back to bed. And it becomes a practice of like, just as simple as saying like, you know what? I'm not going to be sad anymore. I'm going to be awesome. And like, okay, let's do it. So I really love that. So you had touched on like being in therapy and what you were working out with your therapist. What was the deciding factor for you to start therapy? So
I went to Hawaii to go film Hawaii 5-0. And right then the role was cut. And it was the first time that's ever happened to me. So I'm there on a 10-day guest star, like kind of just hanging out in Hawaii. So I was just like, I was really devastated when because they cut it within like the first rehearsal. So I was like, oh no. And it wasn't anything to do with me. It was something to do with just the storyline and blah, blah, blah.
Right. But I'm sure you didn't feel that way.
Absolutely not. They were like, it's not you. We'll bring you back.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I tried to make the most of it, and I'm there with my wife. And they call me and they're just like, hey, so we'll get you on a plane tomorrow. And I was just like, can I just stay the 10 days? And they're like, yeah. And so they're like, enjoy your vacation. And so like me and my wife just, you know, stayed in Hawaii and had some fun. And, you know, we explored and sightseed, and I completely got this whole business out of my mind. I was just like, okay, you know what? Like, it's fine. Like, I still got here from, you know, from my business, from my whole, you know, acting journey. And so I kind of let it go. And then when I came back from Hawaii, after having the best vacation ever, honestly, because most of it was paid for. Thank you. Thank you, CBS. But I came home and I started to feel kind of the loss of that, the first, you know, major recurring guest star that I've ever had. So I came home and I was devastated, and I didn't know how to really kind of process those feelings. So I decided to go into therapy, and I've been on and off with therapy ever since then. But it taught me a lot of great things. Mainly is that if you've gone to that place, you can get there again, and it can happen again. You know, it's not just like that's the last time things will happen. You can always pull yourself back up and get back there.
Absolutely. Another thought that I always tell myself is everything is working out the way it's supposed to. And I am always exactly where I'm meant to be. And at the end of the day, well, it's completely devastating whenever that happens. I've been stepping into a part and they've given it to somebody else before. And I would, then I had to work background the rest of the day. And I wanted to just go home and die. Like, I was devastated. I was so upset. And, you know, I've lost singing competitions. I booked a guest star, and then signed all my paperwork, the whole 9 week of filming, do not work notice from SAG. I mean, it's awful. It's devastating, because you're like, oh, I did it. I got to the part of the dream that I've been trying to get to for so long. And in your circumstance, yeah, it's absolutely devastating, and you have to feel those feelings. And with hindsight, you can go, but you know what? I got a free trip out of Hawaii out of it. I got to spend 10 days off not thinking about anything. Like, the universe cushioned the blow for you at least,
Yeah.
But it is so hard to, especially in this industry, to not get bogged down of what could have, should have been, and thinking like, oh, well, if this would have happened, I would have had this, and that should have been me. And, I think therapy is definitely, everybody could benefit from it, but especially being in this town and processing those emotions and being able to get through it. And, and what it kind of reminds me of, to bring it back to How I Met Your Mother, because Jason Segel, when he's in Hawaii, forgetting Sarah Marshall, just like crying in the hotel room. He's like, are those happy tissues or sad tissues?
I love it. Yeah. That movie is so funny. And Kristen Bell is just fantastic. Oh man. And the Dracula musical, that movie's brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I'm sitting at a bar or just when it's in a quiet setting and I just want to go Dracula musical. Like
I do that too. I totally do that too. I totally scream. Yeah. So, especially whenever we're at like a show, or like, I go to Musical Mondays with my wife sometimes over in WeHo. And sometimes it's quiet and I go, Dracula musical.
It's the best.
It's great.
It's so good.
Best.
I think that was like the last rom-com that I like. That's one of the movies I will always watch if it's on TV. It's just one of the best last comedies I think of in the last, God, I don't even know how long ago that was.
Yeah.
Something, if you're comfortable talking about this, when I was looking through our messages on Instagram and seeing how much we've talked in the past 10 years and like what we've talked about and stuff, you and I really reconnected a lot through iWay. Like we would both post things about Jamila Jamil and another Instagram account. I think it's called Your Fat Friend. And we talked just a lot about how like our body image. And I was telling you how I was on set and they asked me to change because like the back of my dress was like, they could see my bra through it or something. They wanted me to change and they had no clothes that fit me on set. And I was just devastated. I literally was like, why am I here? I never want to be here again. And my body, the way I felt about my body made me not want to live my dream, made me not want to do the thing I was passionate about. And I just wanted to touch on like how you have, navigated with dealing with body image because you're somebody who's extremely positive and like, I don't even want to say body positivity. I like the way Jamila Jamil says body neutrality, where it's like, we're just not thinking of our bodies because what they look like does not matter. They're the least important thing is how we look.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, body neutrality would probably be it. I think, to touch on that, I have insane anxiety going to fitting, mainly because like, I have to get like some bigger sizes and stuff like that. And like a lot of the times whenever they have whatever's in stock, like they don't have my size. So sometimes they'll have to like go shopping. And I have a lot of anxiety about it. And I just started thinking that like, you know what, at the end of the day, like I'm here because I'm talented. You know what I mean? Like I'm not here because, I'm Ryan Reynolds. And Ryan Reynolds is talented, but still I don't look like him, but I think, so I was talking to a friend of mine when we were working on a pilot and I was just like, I came there and they said, like, we don't have any clothes for you. And she was like, F that. That's her job. Tell her to go shopping because, and I was just like, what? And I was just like, really? And then she's just like, she shouldn't shame you or tell you that, like we're going to have to fit you into something smaller. That's her job. Like literally your job is to come there, learn your lines and act and do the best that you can. Her job is literally to get you clothes. So do not have anxiety about that. Do not feel bad about that. And I said, okay, I feel you. And so I've been feeling that way ever since that, like they'll be like, can you bring stuff? Yeah, sure. And be like, okay, well, we need something specific. I'll be like, well,
go get it.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, go get it, as be as nice as you can to your costume people. Cause they are most of the costume people I have met have been incredibly, incredibly nice. So, especially when you're working on a show consistently, they've always been incredibly nice. It's interesting because I always think about it in terms of not just like my weight, but like also my race. So it's kind of like I'm a chubby Filipino in this industry. Where do I fit in? And I kind of just have to carve my way in or, prove myself. And I think it was a quote that I literally always bring up every now and then. And it's Steve Martin. He said, be so good that they can't ignore you. And that's my mantra now. That's what I live by now. So, like whenever I go into an audition, whenever I go into thing, I try to put all the personal vendettas against myself away and just kind of go in there and be so good that they can't ignore me. Yes. And that's how I kind of live my life as far as acting.
I love that. And it's so true. And I've always had those, well, I'll start booking when I'm skinnier. I'll start booking when my hair's longer. I'll start booking if I'm blonder. I'll start booking this. Like, not even just weight. It goes from everything. And you're just like, I remember having this conversation with you, like texting back and forth. And the best thing you said was, stay above the bullshit, keep healing. And I was like, yes.
Exactly.
Because when you start to heal the inside, when you start to heal from the inside and you really start to work on your self-worth and knowing who you are, nothing on the outside matters whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring something else. You bring something that nobody else in the world can bring to the table. And I feel that way. And I also feel that way about you. There's something about you that is so unique. You know what I mean? That, like you can compare yourselves to other actresses and be like, oh yeah. Like myself, sure, I'm a Jacob Batalon type. I'm a Jonah Hill type, whatever. You know what I mean? But I bring something to the table that they can't, and they bring something to the table that I can't. So, there's room for all of us. There's space for all of us. And you just have to carve your own way and just keep going and keep running with it.
Absolutely. And you're doing a beautiful job of doing that. I mean, you really are. And you're such a standout too. Like whenever I am like watching a show and you pop up, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Romel. And like you are, and you have this ease about you when you're on screen, and this quality where it's this likability factor where you're like, oh, I really want to pay, like, I just want to pay attention to this person and what they have to say. Where not a lot of people have that. They're just kind of like filler in the background a little bit, or those one-liners. But like, you make those one-liners extremely funny. Like in Stumptown, even just you going over and locking the door and crossing your arms, like it was funny. It's not supposed to be funny, but you were just like so undeniably you. And it's so fun to watch. And you're on Ghostwriter now?
Yes. I am on season 3 of Ghostwriter. It's out now on Apple TV Plus. I am, spoiler alert, the ghost of Ghostwriter.
Hell yeah.
So for this season, you'll see me a lot. Yeah. I play Oliver Ramos, who is a paleontologist, and also like a professor's assistant aide, professor, something. Anyways, one of those things. Yeah.
You're Ross Geller. You're a paleontologist.
Yeah. And he an archaeologist and stuff like that. He's he's an Egyptologist. That's the official title. So he's an Egyptologist. Yeah. So he deals with a lot of that stuff. And I love it. It was an amazing experience. I got to film for a month and a half in Canada, and nice. I loved every minute of it. And I love Canada, and I would love to live there and work there as well. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite cities. So Toronto, shout out. I love it.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. And I watched an episode this morning, and it is a really, it's a really great show for young kids, like young adults, to also watch with like their parents, which I really like.
Yeah. I mean, you're younger than me, but we're in similar ages. So did you remember watching it when you were a kid, like the Ghost Rider series?
No.
So the show is actually a reboot, which is really cool. I remember watching it so it was like that Wishbone. It was like Ghost Rider, Wishbone, and like Thomas the Tank Engine and like Reading Rainbow. And that was kind of like the lineup and everything like that. So Ghost Rider is one of those shows kind of like Wishbone, which every week or every like 2 weeks, it would introduce you to a new book and you would go on these adventures with the ghost who's trying to help you solve a mystery. And so once I got cast in this, I was like, I remember every single second of Ghost Rider. I remember flashing orbs throughout my room, pretending it was Ghost Rider. So it was so cool to like get on this. My friend who I was on his YouTube show and podcast, he called me the reboot king because I've been in so many reboots, but this was one of the reboots that I just love. So.
Oh, that's amazing. That's right. You just did iCarly as well.
Yeah, I just did iCarly, and then I did He's All That and Heather. So all of these were reboots. I don't know what it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, work it.
I think it's because I get the genre that they're trying to reboot because, we lived through them and we love them and we respect their properties.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Romel, this has been so much fun and such a good conversation in general. And I like to end every podcast with the most hard-hitting question, I guess. What is the most useful piece of advice you've gotten for your mental health?
I think it is to, one of the most useful advice I would say is that your support system is so, so important. Do not hesitate to ask for help and do not hesitate to talk to others. Therapy is great and everyone should be in therapy, but there are people around you who are there and willing to love you and help you. So go out and seek that help and be there with the people that you love because they will be the thing that guides you through whatever you're going through.
I love that. And you have definitely... Yeah. Going back to the beginning, we don't see each other a lot, but we have kept in touch. And even the smallest support goes a long way. And you've done that for me in being seen when I've had, problems with, body image and we've talked about it, or being dropped by my agent manager. And I'm feeling like, oh my God, my whole career is over. I'm never going to find an agent or a manager again. Like I've gone to you, and we've just kept in touch through these really random things, but also things that have been so helpful for me in keeping my own sanity in this town. So also just realizing,
I'm glad.
Like, thank you. And like a little bit goes a long way. Like the smallest bit of kindness, the smallest bit of acceptance, or just when you feel seen in the smallest way, even can just make somebody feel so much better and comforted and less alone. So thank you for that. Because,
absolutely. I think that everyone should reach out when they have, when they feel that way, reach out to your friends and family. If you see somebody that's doing something awesome, tell them they're doing something awesome. Don't keep it in.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing something awesome. And I am so happy for you. I'm so excited to see what else comes your way. And thank you again so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
Of course, it was a blast. Thanks.
All right, Romel, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.